Welcome to the podcast, Strategy to Outcomes. I'm your host, Bill Rue. There's a quote that is associated with Thomas Edison. Strategy without execution is hallucination. And the quote itself is simple but brilliant, as it describes what every business leader faces: achieving better business outcomes. Now, strategy by itself doesn't lead to outcomes. And this podcast is about exploring practical advice and experience to help listeners achieve better outcomes. It also explores the future of strategy creation and execution, which is changing with technology. It's even more compelling today than ever before to have this discussion because businesses in general are facing greater macro, micro, and technology challenges they must account for in their strategy. At the macro level, there's more uncertainty than ever before, coupled with the speed of change has accelerated. On the uncertainty side, you have greater social, geopolitical, environmental, and health challenges, which require changes to strategy in what feels like almost daily. On the change side, we live in a world where technology is leading us in new directions and that businesses need to respond to in ways they never had to before. Think about it. Over the last 30 years, the world has moved from analog speed to internet speed to cloud speed, and now we're entering the age of AI speed. And as a result, strategy has to be tied to how it can play in a world of uncertainty and change to achieve outcomes. At the micro level, leaders must ensure brilliant strategies aren't gathering dust on a shelf, or more likely on a PowerPoint and a desktop computer. Most strategies today are put together on PowerPoint and then tracked for execution on Excel. Most employees don't feel connected to the strategy. They're not sure how it relates to them. They're not sure what they do on a daily basis aligns to it. And so they don't give much thought to it every day. And so businesses need to be able to make that tie to their employees like never before. And they've got to make sure the employee's work is connected to the outcomes they're trying to get out of the strategy. And finally, technology is becoming a major enabler to developing strategy and achieving outcomes. Gen AI, which has been a big topic in the business world, will be at the center of how business strategy is created and executed. Look, we've automated HR, we've automated finance, we're automating all the business functioning, and strategy is the last area to be automated. And so as leaders, what you need to begin to think about is how do you deal with the macro, micro, and technology opportunities and challenges to ensure you're getting outcomes from strategy. Now, our first guest in this podcast series is Antony Maiello, the CEO of StratifyPro. The StratifyPro is also the sponsor of this podcast series. So let's jump into our interview. So welcome, Antony. And, I want to start just with your background. I know you are a deep business strategy guy. You're passionate about this topic, but tell us a little bit about your career and when you really realized that to be a great business leader, you have to be great at strategy.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. Thanks for having me on. Enjoy our conversations, and I appreciate being on your podcast here. So let's go back, I guess, from the beginning real quick here. My journey really started with a deep love for technology and building things. I used to spend hours in my mom's garage tinkering with combustion engines. I'd tear them apart, rebuild them, even try to improve their designs. It was the same thing really for everything. I'd rip apart clocks and VCRs, you name it. I'd realize how things work, and I'd always try to rebuild them and maybe even make them better. So my passion for building things always outweighed my academic inclinations. So my mom would say, unfortunately so, but that's how I was as a child. So while I did well in high school, I wasn't really a typical student. Tests bored me, and I much preferred hands-on projects, being outdoors. But despite my initial doubts, I enrolled in engineering and discovered a hidden passion for the field that I wasn't aware of. So I did ace the engineering degree, and I really enjoyed the academics as well. So it was really the start of my engineering career, and I thought that was it. I'd be an engineer forever, and I kind of still am. Now, I love sports, and I have my sports heroes, but engineers who invented these incredible machines that I played around with and tinkered with their intricate gears, their clever mechanisms, these were my real heroes. I researched them. I learned what they did and how they operated to make things better and invent, and their ingenuity really exemplified by the feat of like sending humans to the moon was really profoundly inspiring to me. And I really held these people as heroes in my world. So I really love the fact now that I was going to be an engineer myself. One thing I do want to mention, and it's really important in my career, is from a balancing work and life perspective. Throughout my career, family always came first. So coaching baseball, volunteering, these were non-negotiables. And I even left jobs that didn't allow me to prioritize family. I say this because, I had a great mentor early on in my career, and first thing he told me was never miss a ball game. That was it. And I didn't really know what he meant, had no kids at the time, but it always stuck with me. And looking back, I really wouldn't change a thing. Also, one thing I want to mention, because this all builds into my strategic inclination here, is personality-wise, besides school and all the other things, I'd never really been one to mince words. So I've always been very direct and honest. This might be my New York upbringing, but this sometimes ruffles feathers. But I believe in always being authentic and communicating with integrity. So while it hasn't always been easy, because this approach has allowed me to build strong relationships based on trust and mutual respect. And building relationships and all of the things involved there is required as you go through your career here. So it's important that happen. So early on, I was always questioning things, pushing boundaries. I remember feeling stifled in some of my corporate roles along my journey, especially the large companies. There was so much emphasis on playing it safe, not enough focus on bold, innovative ideas. I didn't really know early on what that really meant, but I was always in that thought process. Why can't we go faster, be more dynamic, and that sort of thing? I felt there had to be a better way to do this, a way to truly deliver what now we call strategic goals and big ideas. And this really, from a young engineer, really sparked a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit from a very young age. I didn't call it that, but I felt I wanted to push the envelope. So I always had side projects going on. So one in particular that I want to mention here that really influenced how I deal with my career even now is one in particular was early in my career. I had a side project. It was a financial program I decided I wanted to start building. And I spent nights doing this. It was one of my first engineering jobs. I went home at night, got on my computer, and it really started igniting. I spent weekends doing on this. This was in parallel to my corporate job, so I couldn't do it during the day. This really ignited a real growing passion for entrepreneurship. I started working with friends. We transformed this little idea of general ledgers and different financial spreadsheets. This was in the 90s, early 90s. So working with friends, we transformed that idea into a real product. This happened to become my first entrepreneurial company. We experienced really the thrill of building something tangible and meaningful. People loved it. They started using it. We sold it to companies. And this success of this venture, which included some financial rewards at the time, really fueled my drive for future endeavors. So last I'd add here around that is my career really has been a winding road. It's been filled with exciting challenges and unexpected turns, and we may talk a little bit about that today. I've worn many hats, from CTO, obviously engineer, a CTO, CIO, and even CEO now. Some of these ventures are with real iconic companies like GE and Honeywell and so forth. And I even dabbed in a few entrepreneurial ventures along the way with my corporate roles as well. So this diverse experience really has taught me the importance of translating big ideas into actionable plans and empowering teams to achieve their goals. Whether you're in a small company, a medium company, or a large enterprise, the approach is a little bit different. So it's really been a journey of continuous learning and adaptation. And I'm incredibly grateful really throughout my career for the opportunities I've had to contribute to the success strategically to almost every organization I worked at because of the way I approached problem solving. So today I find my greatest satisfaction and really my sweet spot from what people tell me and the kinds of jobs I take is really helping others transform their vision into reality.
Were there any moments in time that had a huge impact in how you thought about, strategy? And where did, as you began to create business strategies and get your teams aligned. Where were the struggles in taking strategy and turning it into outcomes?
Yeah, there were many moments in time, or I shouldn't say moments, there were different kinds of jobs and efforts that I've had that did influence this journey. This is kind of, as I said, a whirlwind of events, and getting into strategy was an accident to some degree. I was just happened to be good at it because of my personality and my technical background and the influence great engineers had on my life. Like I said, I love sports, but I had heroes in sports, but my biggest heroes were actually the engineers that made things work. So I would mention two real influential things, and they're not the entrepreneurial efforts, believe it or not. They're more working for larger and smaller companies. I'll give you two examples. One was when I was brought into GE Energy to lead the transformation of GE Energy towards a smart grid. And this was truly a humbling experience. And there's lots of lessons learned and lots of successes and lots of areas where I learned a lot. What I needed to do was I needed to guide a team of experienced engineers. And remember, this was the early 2000s, actually 2001-ish timeframe, where I was brought into the company to guide a team of very experienced hardware engineers into the world of AI and software. This presents significant challenges. But by focusing on open communication, addressing their concerns as engineers, and by the way, this included P&L leaders, business leaders, and such from a business model perspective. But this really, by focusing on that open communication, always being honest, high integrity, addressing their concerns, demonstrating the potential of this new direction, we were able to actually over the years, successfully navigate the transition, which actually is still going on today. So this experience, everything in a nutshell, I could speak for hours about this. This is so much fun, so much great experience. One of my favorite experiences in my career, actually. But what this experience solidified, if I had to say it in one sentence, is really my belief in the power of strategic leadership and really the importance of adaptability in a rapidly changing world, especially around the old electric grid moving into the smart grid and how AI and software really played a role there. Another time was at a small company where I was hired as their transformational CIO. This was a whirlwind. We experienced explosive growth, literally from a $30 million company to almost a $500 million company in only a few short years. So we experienced that explosive growth that culminating into a successful acquisition. Basically, we got acquired by another private equity firm after we achieved that great success. So on the paper, this looked like a great success. It was an exhilarating journey, but also a challenging one. So what I witnessed there were the complexities of private equity world firsthand, which I never experienced before. Navigating stakeholder expectations was different from a GE kind of thing. Of delivering financial results were a little different. While we achieved this great success, I saw instances where the lack of the right leadership, the lack of the right tools, and the lack of process around those tools, and I mean strategic type tools, this really hindered our progress and created unnecessary delays and shortcomings. These experiences taught me a few things: the importance of ethical leadership, which is another conversation, long-term vision, strategic planning, and investing in the right tools to ensure you can have sustainable growth and success for the business and its people to move forward after the acquisition. So, as far as where I started seeing, I think part of your question was where I started seeing the importance of strategy in my work. I guess the way I would start this is with those two experiences there. Imagine a road trip that you're taking and you're looking at an outdated map. It's a physical map. It's a map from 10, 15 years ago. You're going to get lost quickly, right? Well, that's how a lot of these companies, a lot of my experiences, this is how companies approach strategy. In fact, they still do today. A lot of them, they create rigid plans like those old maps that I was just talking about that don't account for unexpected twists and turns of the business world. And you struggle through those things. You're good at leadership. You try to motivate people because you know what to do. You just don't have the right compass. So I've seen it firsthand at GE. I've seen it throughout my career. brilliant strategies get stuck in PowerPoint presentations, never truly translating into action. Teams get bogged down in meetings, losing sight of the big picture. And this is really the frustration that fueled, although I succeeded at a lot of these things because of my knowledge of where I wanted to go and how I wanted to operate. It took a long time to manage these things the way you have to manage it without the right tools and without the right motivation. So this frustration really fueled my desire to start my current venture, which is StratifyPro. And this is really where I believe at StratifyPro, and my personal belief, successful strategies are more like a compass than a rigid map. They provide the direction, but also the flexibility and the adoption. And this tool, and even the view for me, what was missing in my ventures in the past was really the ability that empowers you with the data and the tools to navigate that ever-changing business landscape, and also learn from your progress and adjust your course as needed. I can get more into the platform later if you want, but that would really fueled it for me was, hey, I was successful at a lot of these ventures, but I learned a lot, and I always felt I can go faster, and I always felt I can do it better with a little bit more automation and technology.
How did you build your skills in this area? And what training did you take? What books did you read? Or was it just naturally built into you? How did you begin to get your own viewpoint on strategy?
Yeah, great question. Again, my journey is 30 years old and plus, and I've done a lot to do that. So if I encompass everything here, really building a strong strategy management skill set really requires a multifaceted approach. And again, I accidentally got into some of this stuff because of the nature of what I was trying to do and what interested me. What I did really early on was I got a deep understanding of what we call foundational concepts, even way back when. Things like SWOT analysis and Pastel and Porter's 5 forces. Look these up on the internet if you don't know what these are. These are different frameworks that have been explored by past innovators. That understanding of those foundational concepts, coupled with the development of the essential skills like analytic thinking, again, things that came natural to me, but I kept working at them throughout my career. Analytical thinking, strategic thinking, decision making, and communication hits it on the head. This all mixed in with culture, understanding people and what they're thinking, understand what motivates them, and that sort of thing. So gaining practical experience through real-world projects too, and seeking mentorship from experienced leaders is critical. It's crucial. Don't try to do this alone. But one thing I will warn you, pick your mentors wisely. I only had 2 my entire career that actually cared. So you have to be careful with this, and this could be another subject down the line. Continuous learning is paramount, requiring a commitment to staying abreast of industry trends, best practices. I've got wisdom, but wisdom is good, but never stop learning and always stay open-minded, because what you did yesterday is going to be a different solution for tomorrow. Also, and often overlooked, successful strategy implementation often requires navigating very complex organizational dynamics. And you were talking about that a little bit earlier, and this is very important. This really necessitates very strong leadership skills, including the ability to influence others, build consensus, and drive change. It's not a dictatorship. You have to start collaborating and working with people and influencing people through actions. Typical leadership skills, but very important. Furthermore, developing, and I call it thick skin, developing thick skin is essential, because as strategic initiatives often face resistance and criticisms, you'll be in the hot seat more than once. You have to know how to handle that professionally and with integrity, and not go off the deep end, so to speak. I guess what I did, and perhaps some, like I said earlier, most by accident, and I'll end it with this, was really embrace a lifelong learning journey here, and where I applied all of these principles pretty consistently. And I wasn't always great at it. Not that I'm great at it now either, but I got better as I applied these principles very consistently, and I stuck with them. I said earlier, I kind of stick to what I'm trying to do, and I'm pretty not politically correct often. But this whole thing allowed me to cultivate that strategic acumen, so to speak, and that leadership, those leadership qualities that are really necessary to navigate the complexities of modern business landscaping and really drive the successful organizational outcomes that I was always focused on.
So tell me about how you think the future is going to play out. What's the role of technology in this? And what does the technology do that really helps to take the strategy to outcomes?
Yeah, good question. There's a lot of technology even today, but as far as the future is concerned, and some of it applies even today, but some of it's just beginning. I would say, just to keep this within reason, time limit wise, there's really three areas I think you're going to see a lot more activity in as far as the future of strategy is concerned. And this really is in the realm of one, data-driven, do I dare to say it's really AI-driven, agile, and I'll talk about that in a second, and also human-centric. I think we're going to see real expansions in all three of those areas. As far as data-driven decision-making area, we already do it today, but AI will increasingly play a crucial role in analyzing the vast amount of data to identify trends, predict outcomes, and really uncover opportunities. We do a little of that now in StratifyPro, but the roadmap, the plan ahead compared to what we currently have in the platform is huge. There's a lot more to do there. This will really enable businesses to make more informed decisions, adapt quickly to changing market conditions, think sort of outside their four walls, and really gain competitive edges. The ones that don't embrace this will probably not be around very long. And then the old agile and adaptive strategies. I mean, the pace of change is accelerating. Successful businesses will need to develop agile strategies that can quickly adjust based on real-time data and feedback. This will require a culture of continuous learning, experimentation, and iterative improvement. I know we've heard that before, but I think in strategy and being around strategy, as you said earlier yourself, a lot of strategy in the world of the corporations today is static and it's not agile at all. So this is where this is going. And, if you don't, it's sort of like how ERP evolved. If companies don't embrace agile and strategy and strategic planning and execution and being fast about it and being able to pivot and turn and change quickly, they're going to be lost. They're going to lose. And this is going to evolve like ERP did for ERP. It starts as tools and spreadsheets, and it's going to turn into something like this that requires this kind of capability. So data-driven, AI-driven, agile, adapt. Let's talk about human-centered approach here. Right? You can't lose this. Humans control things. We need to make the decisions. So while technology is essential, the human element will remain paramount. I think we need to keep understanding that. I think we need to embrace AI, because the humans that don't embrace AI will be replaced by another human. Building strong teams, fostering a culture of innovation, prioritizing employee well-being, these are all critical to success when it comes to strategy, just like it is anything else. And the reason I bring the human element up in the realm of strategy is because most employees don't know their strategies. And if they do, they see a PowerPoint presentation somewhere on the wall of the coffee room, so to speak, or they hear about it. And I'm not making these numbers up, but 90% of employees don't even know they have a strategy, or if they do know, they don't understand it. So this is all about communication, prioritizing their well-being, keeping people in the loop, and being transparent about it. All three of these things, it's funny, AI is very technical, agile is kind of process, go faster, and then you go back to, hey, people are what make things work, and we need to do a better job at incorporating all people into the whole strategic planning and execution roadmap.
Tell me about StratifyPro. What's the platform? Why do you think people need this platform?
Yeah, so I built StratifyPro because, as I said earlier, I saw firsthand throughout my career how frustrating it can be when brilliant strategies gather dust on the shelf. You pour months into crafting this amazing roadmap for the future, and then it just gets lost in the day-to-day grind. We've all been to off-site 2-week, 3-week meetings in the Bahamas or wherever, and we have fun and collaborate, and there's so many advantages to doing that. But quite often that results in these static roadmaps. And what's sad about that is most of those roadmaps are very well planned out. There's a lot of innovation in there. They just don't have a way to get out of the PowerPoint static view. And quite honest, I used to say things, I've had these great PowerPoints back in the old days. I'd get on the airplane, and by the time I land back to where I work in my office, those PowerPoints are already obsolete. And it's sad, and then it's very hard to keep up. So that's why StratifyPro is different. Obviously it's a platform that's focused on strategy, planning, and execution, laser focused on helping companies achieve outcomes. What's unique about it is we've infused AI in every step of the process. So really helping you analyze the data, identifying opportunities, and creating strategies that are actually achievable, manageable. We've also borrowed from the agile world, making sure your strategy is consistently evolving and adapting to changing landscape, making suggestions, recommendations, and allowing that iterative approach to strategy that is necessary. So instead of just checking boxes, StratifyPro helps you turn your vision into reality. It's about more than just planning. It's about achieving the real impactful results. And that's really why StratifyPro is really a game changer for most companies. I guess it's truly exciting about the potential of StratifyPro. It looks like we're well positioned to revolutionize how business approaches strategy, more dynamic, more iterative. It gives leaders the power and insights they need to not just plan, but actually achieve their goals, because the platform is really the reason it exists. Is it connects all of the things that you do, all of the activities, to outcomes. And it helps you measure it, and it's achievable, and it's real world stuff.
So take me through, an example, because the way I kind of understand this then is you're still going to have business leaders and probably their consultants developing strategies. The tool can be engaged at that point to get the strategy laid out. But if you have a PowerPoint strategy, you can implement that. You can put that into your platform. What does it do at that point?
Yeah. So let's say you have an example where you've got a strategic intent. Strategy is in itself, if we get into the real definition of strategy, the word strategy, strategic planning, and not strategy planning, strategic planning, and then strategy execution, they all mean different things. And we're not going to have time to get into the details of those definitions. But a strategic intent is sort of a vision that's a little bit more actionable. A strategic intent in an offsite meeting might be something like, hey, I want to achieve 2x revenue. And I want to do that by expanding our product line to new markets. This is not extremely actionable, but it gives you a good feel as to what you're trying to do. This is what you pour into the platform. So you would actually put that into our AI, I call it LLM, and you would ask it, hey, let's talk about that. This is my strategic intent. Help me start breaking that down. StratifyPro will take that strategic intent and start breaking it down into more measurable and actionable objectives. It will even start suggesting KPIs, key performance indicators, strategy performance indicators, and also actions, actual work, packages of work. And it would also even try to start putting together timelines for you. So now you're starting to connect a strategic plan that has some actionable objectives in there into your strategic intent. And that all gets automatically, StratifyPro creates an automatic strategic plan for you, sort of like a balanced scorecard sort of view. And now you've got that in the platform, and now you could take that and manually adjust it with your team. You can add more value, you can exclude things, whatever it is that you're just trying to do. You could add more scenarios that may not be covered, and you could do that through the AI. You could keep asking it, hey, recommend more suggestions here. Then what happens is the next step is about execution. Now we want to, okay, how do we execute on this? We need to align this to different teams. We need to bring in our execution team. We need to start aligning these goals to different parts of the organization. You do that right in the platform. It's very easy to do. You start saying, hey, the marketing team does this, the development team does this, and so forth. And now they create their own strategic plans that all get aligned to the parent strategic intent. So everything's aligned, everything's connected. Nobody's doing anything that's not aligned to the strategic intent. Nobody's doing anything that's not aligned to the corporate strategic plan because everything's already connected. And now you could start, now they create their own plans, their own KPIs, and their own actions. They're accountable. They're accountable. They understand why they're doing what the company is asking them to do. They see that through the alignment maps that are built right into the tool. It's all visually there. You could see where you are percentage-wise from an execution perspective. You could see where you are from an alignment perspective. The tool tells you where you're not aligned, where you are aligned, and where you need to fill the gaps. And then there's all sorts of reporting and dashboards to help you tweak it because things change all the time. You can set up dashboards to give you some predictions about where you're moving in the future, and some suggestions will come in on where you need to do better and align better and that sort of thing. So you've got a whole palette of, we call it widgets, to build the different tools, to build the different dashboards and reports. You could keep your stakeholders in the loop with automatic reporting. You don't need to create special PowerPoints or anything. These will be automatically created once you set up the format. Then you just keep releasing the same formatted reports to your different stakeholders. They're in the loop, and everything is aligned. Excuse me. We're basing StratifyPro on what we've trademarked, a think, plan, go framework. And this is about thinking about the strategy, your strategic intent, then planning it out in something that's more measurable, where objectives and KPIs and actions are aligned. And this is where you start thinking about also, I didn't mention, you could integrate to project management tools that you might be using, or Salesforce or Jira, or whatever it is that you're using to manage your projects, so that the data is shared. And then, so that's the planning side. And then the whole execution side is all about executing and reporting on successes, giving you the ability to tweak and make changes and that sort of thing. At the end of the day, StratifyPro is more than just project management. It's aligning to outcomes. Everything about StratifyPro is about, did this team effort, this very complex strategic planning and execution system that StratifyPro put together for you and is managing, did it actually achieve X or 2X revenue or improvement? And everything's aligned to that. And if you didn't, and you checked off all your boxes, and something's not right. And that's why it goes well beyond just managing a project and managing activities and actions. It actually ties all of that to objectives and ultimately to your strategic intent.
If you're trying to double sales, well, a lot of that times that's in your finance systems or it's in your CRM systems. So what's the relationship between StratifyPro and those systems?
Yeah, so and that's why we built an array of different integrations. StratifyPro, I've heard people say that the true differentiator for products like StratifyPro is not just the AI and all that other good stuff because of the great technology, but it's in integrations and things like we integrate with Slack, Teams, and things like that to integrate collaboration capabilities with Jira and different project management tools to incorporate actions that are being completed in the Jira tool, so you don't have to repeat that. You will have automatic connection there, and Salesforce and HubSpot and things like that to get sales information and other CRM data that might be important. What we tried to do with StratifyPro is we realize business process needs to be tweaked in some organizations to get strategy connected to outcomes and make sure you're achieving outcomes. So we do that, but we seriously don't try to impede on what's working for an organization. And Salesforce and HubSpot and Jira and different kinds of tools like that are very good at what they do, and we don't try to replace them. We try to integrate with them because the missing piece isn't sales numbers, isn't achieving success in actions that are being completed by project teams and so forth. The thing that's missing here is all the connection to the outcomes. You see, that's the title of the podcast, Strategy to Outcomes. That's the missing piece, and that's what StratifyPro is trying to achieve here. Now, can you do everything in StratifyPro? from managing projects and such? Yes. But we know the reality isn't that. The reality is we've got a bunch of different things that people do that work. So we integrate with all of these tools. And some of the tools, if you use our platform, you'll see there's a whole array of integrations that are coming that we don't currently integrate. And we prioritize that based on the need of our customers. And they're constantly coming in, all different new tools are coming in, but we're integrating with a lot of them now. And that's really one of the real advantages of the platform now is we don't try to replace your workflow necessarily that's working, but we do try to get you connected to your outcomes.
Anthony, you've got a tremendous experience over 30 years in actually doing strategy. And there's a lot of different definitions and terminologies, et cetera. Could you just, lay out your definitions and your structure or framework about how you think about business leaders and strategy?
Yeah, so try to keep this is a 1 hour, 2 hour conversation. So let me put everything in a couple of minutes here, or in a nutshell, so to speak. I mentioned think, plan, go. This is a marketing phrase that we gave our framework. And this is really, we've also coined this in the past. We called it V2, vision to outcomes. And this is really where we help companies, we've embodied in the StratifyPro platform, where we help companies along their journey of strategy to do it right and not just do PowerPoints and forget about them. And what this requires is a lot of consulting. So StratifyPro is a software tool that works great. But the StratifyPro company, my company, we've also embodied the coaching and facilitation, where we help companies learn the think, plan, go framework, because it encompasses balanced scorecards and OKRs. So it encompasses the whole planning piece, and it encompasses the whole execution piece. OKRs are very good at execution, where balanced scorecard approach is very good at planning. So we've combined those. And then we've combined it with a bunch of other things, sort of things like making sure you're doing annual reviews, teach you how to do those annual reviews, make sure you're doing quarterly reviews. You use the platform does all of this for you. But just because the platform has it doesn't mean people use it. So we coach them through that effort. And I really encourage our clients always sign up for that version of StratifyPro, because we can help you get through this and help you really get educated in the think, plan, go. So in a nutshell, think, plan, go is exactly what you think it is. The think part is around strategic intent. This is where strategic thinking kicks in. What is it that you're trying to do, and why is it that you're trying to do it? So it's more than just vision. A vision is, I want to be the best in this. A strategic intent double clicks on that a bit, and it says, okay, I want to be the best, but for the next couple of years or a few years, whatever complexity you have there, as the example I said earlier, I want to grow this company 3x over the next 12 months, kind of lofty, but 3x over the next 12 months. Then I want to do it through product expansion, organic growth, and inorganic growth. And that's your strategic intent. Not executable necessarily, but it's something that you do during the think phase. Think phase involves things like SWOT analysis, pastel analysis. That's why I mentioned earlier. Learn how to do that, do those kinds of things. They're really good concepts on understanding what's going on internally, what's going on externally, merging it into your competitive landscape. All of that stuff gets done. You do assessments on your current process, you do assessments on where you currently are from a strategy perspective, and you start pulling all that together into your thinking phase. And we help you do that. And you put that all in the tool. Then you go into the planning phase. This is where you get more tactical. Now you're saying, okay, I want to go 3x. Why do I want to do that? This is where you go into the why. I ask 5 why questions. Why do you want to do that? The customer would say, well, this is why we want to grow 3x. Okay, why do you want to do that? And you keep breaking that down. Eventually, you're going to get to an outcome. And it works all the time. And we walk our clients through that. And the tool doesn't necessarily have that. You don't do it in the tool, but you do record what the whys are. But the question has to be asked. So as you're going through that, now you're starting to build, okay, I've got these objectives. I've got not only high-level objectives, but I even have nested goals within those objectives that are now starting to form more from qualitative to quantitative goals. And this is where I start building KPIs now. And those KPIs and those actions start forming. And I'm connecting all of that in the planning phase to that. And then I'm doing some alignment. Okay, as we go through this, we're going to start aligning that to different teams. You're not going to have it all figured out. This is very iterative. But once you have enough, now you could start getting into execution, which is really diving deeper into the alignment, looking at making sure you've got reporting set up, you're making sure you've got the right dashboards that are giving you the insights that you need, all of this done in the platform. So you're going from thinking to planning to doing things, actually executing. And that's iterative. You probably won't go back too much to the strategic intent, but you might. The industry shifts a lot these days, and I have seen on many occasions where you need to go back and do a pastel analysis on outside influences and things that might be happening. So you always want to keep your eye on the ball. And by the way, StratifyPro helps you with that too because of our AI capability. So you're always iterating through that think, plan, go strategy. And a real important piece of this whole process on the go side is regular meetings. This is the whole human element going beyond, okay, the tool's great, but you need to meet. You need to physically meet or at least virtually meet. You need to talk annually. You need to look at the strategy, the whole strategy. Every quarter, you need to see what you were successful at, where you hit problems, and pivot and adjust. Platform is great at that. You can't do that with PowerPoints. Well, you can, but it'll be very messy and time-consuming. But the platform's designed for that. Those annual and quarterly reviews, you could go right into the platform. You have the reviews in the platform. You use the dashboards and reports to do that, and you can make those adjustments in real time. So that's the whole idea of the Think, Plan, Go. Again, it's a new invention, so to speak, because we brought everything together. We brought all of the greatness of annual planning, quarterly planning, balanced scorecards. We've revamped that and made it better than what the real version of the balanced scorecard is. And we've also implemented a whole OKR process within the framework.
That's really great, Antony. And we're going to have to cut it there. But I want to thank you for your time and look forward to connecting with you in the future on strategy.
Thank you, Bill. It was a pleasure.
There were a ton of great lessons learned on today's podcast. Now, here are a few I picked to consider. Some are tried and true lessons, while others are major shifts from past teachings. First, get grounded in concepts around strategy. Early learning in your career, looking at different approaches, tools, and techniques, sets up a foundation for success. Be curious and a lifelong learner in this area, and recognize that strategy occurs at all levels. Second, in a world of uncertainty and change, you need an agile approach to strategy. Adaptability is critical, and while we don't want to see strategy in constant change, it may be required as you learn more or an event out of your control like COVID hits your business. Third, the success of strategy is tied to navigating and gaining buy-in from an organization. Now, Peter Drucker is often attributed to the quote, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast." Like all great quotes, there's some controversy about whether he ever said this. But what this means is you need an organization to get behind a strategy and execute it to succeed. Lastly, technology is going to change strategy development execution in the same way ERP did to finance. Data, AI, and collaboration technologies in the cloud will be the underpinnings of future systems. Antony created StratifyPro to lead the way into this new world. His comment on humans who don't embrace AI will be replaced by other humans is really insightful. Now, thanks again to Antony for a fantastic interview. A lot of great lessons and insights, and we look forward to our next episode. Also, thanks to StratifyPro for sponsoring the podcast. They have the technology, coaching, and facilitation services to help drive better outcomes in your business.